I'm going to demonstrate how to cast on stitches for a thumb opening. So this is about the length that I want the top of my mitten to be. So I've arranged the stitches already so that they're going to be separated. As I work the thumb, I'm going to have, in this case, 5 stitches that are going to continue from the mitten down all the way through the tip of the thumb, or actually I'm going to work to here. So we're going to keep those live. And this is where I am going to take the working yarn and cast on around the outside of the thumb. So first, let's put these 5 stitches on. Let's get them out of the way. So I have a piece of waste yarn here, pretty generous length. It's a couple of feet. So these 5 stitches are now, they are now off the needle and held for later use. Now we're going to cast on provisional stitches to go around the outside of the thumb, and there are so many ways to do this. I'm just going to show you my preferred method. I find it to be quick and easy. It's a little bit fussy to unpick, but it's super easy to cast on. Okay, so here's my waste yarn is the blue, or actually like gray, and here's my working yarn. So I'm gonna treat this as though it's like a long tail cast on, and this is the thumb yarn. So we're gonna go I'm gonna cast on 15 stitches. All right. So here's my provisional cast on. This waste yarn, which we're gonna unpick later. And now that I have both the top and the bottom of the opening secured, I'm just gonna continue working the rest of my round. So here is our thumb opening. We're gonna unpick this yarn and we're gonna work the thumb up to, like this joint here. But before we unpick the yarn, it's important to mark the corner stitches. So take a look at these stitches here on the cast on. See how each pink stitch has the gray yarn goes through it twice, except in the corner. You have this one corner stitch where there's just one pass through of the gray yarn. And we are going to mark that stitch with a stitch marker. And we'll come back to it later. And there's one on the other side too. See, there it is. We're going to mark that one with another stitch marker. All right, so for now, just leave those in, and then let's get the rest of these stitches on our needles. All right, I have removed the yarn holding the 5 stitches and just set these onto my main needle. For these stitches, so this is I'm gonna have to manually unpick each of these loops, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put each of these loops, the pink loops, onto a skinnier needle just to hold on to them while I unpick. We're gonna leave this on the stitch marker and not touch it until later. So I'm gonna go through each of these stitches from back to front, which will just hold onto them while I unpick the provisional scrap yarn. Now I cast on 15 stitches going the opposite direction, which means there's going to be 14 stitches in the center because there's a half stitch jog. All right, now I think this is 13. Let's count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. Yep, okay, so there's one left. It's a little snug, but it's in there. I see it, so I've got it. All right, so we're just gonna put those on our needle while we unpick the other yarn. And I'm just gonna, one loop at a time. All right, so now the scrap yarn is all gone. We have our corner stitches marked with our stitch markers, and we're gonna knit the remaining stitches in the round to work the thumb. There's gonna be big gaps when we knit the thumb, and that's okay, because we're gonna seal them later. I'm gonna use a different color yarn that you can really see, so it will be evident where the joint is when I come back to seal those holes. Leave a long enough tail that you can use to do a little bit of stitch work afterwards. Okay, so we're gonna start right here at the front of the thumb. Now I'm going to show you how to close these big gaps on either side of the thumb joint. We're going to start with the side that has the naturally occurring tail, because that one is easier. So you see how it emerges from this stitch here? We want it to go through its neighbor so that it naturally connects them, and that just happens to be the marked stitch. So we're going to go through that stitch from back to front, like so. And then I'm going to remove the stitch marker because it's a lot easier to see when it's not there. Okay. Once we've connected these two stitches, see, this yarn just kind of naturally wants to go through the next stitches above. So what we're going to do is just kind of follow the path of the yarn through both legs just above. And then we're going to come back through that same hole. There is still a little hole in the center, and that is just the nature of what happens when you have stitches going in 3 different directions. If you really want to seal up that hole, you can do whatever jiggery pokery you want, but the nice thing is that you have a column of stitches going this way, another going this way, and then yet another going this way. If your stitches are a bit distorted, if the slack is off, don't worry about it. You can either even it up manually or just block it and it will be fine. Next, we're going to do the other joint, and this one is trickier because there's no naturally occurring tail because we started on the opposite side of the thumb. So I'm just going to tell you exactly where to bring your yarn through. From our joint here, we're going to bring our darning or whatever, our weaving yarn through 2 stitches up from the big hole. See that? That's where our weaving is going to start. Then we are set up to connect these 2 legs here. So we're going to do that. Then I'm going to remove the stitch marker. And then let's take a look at the joint and see where the yarn wants to go next. It wants to go through these 2 legs. So we're going to do that. And then it wants to come back through this joint here. And here we have, I didn't snug it up a little bit, but now we have a column of stitch going this way, a column going this way, and a column going this way. And again, there's a little hole in the center. If it really bugs you, you can find a way to close it up. But let me just put it on so you can see how nicely it closes those huge gaps that were there before. Now there's just a tiny little hole, which is the result of stitches going 3 different directions. Now I'm gonna go through that process again, but this time with a finished piece. So the yarn is all one color and it's not quite as obvious where the thumb joint begins. But we still have our marked stitches on both sides, and that's gonna be our guide. So we're gonna start off by going through this marked stitch here, like so. And then take off this yarn here. The marker. All right, and then take a look at our joint here. What we wanna do is we wanna have this column continue down. So we're gonna go through these 2 legs and then back through that same hole right there. And now we have our three-way graft. Here is the other side of the mitt, and this tail has been woven through from here, so we gotta have it come through the right place, which is 2 stitches up right there. All right, then we're gonna go through these 2 legs together, take off that marker, and then we're going to connect the column by having this yarn go through these 2 legs and then back down. There we go. So now, where we once had ginormous holes, we now have nice, tidy joints. Hooray!